One, go. Rockwell podcast, episode infinity. We'll get it together one day. We'll sit down and figure out what episode it is. I'm sorry, you guys out there. We're just not that organized, but we give you great content. And we have a very special guest in the building today. She has a casting network. Her name is Lisa Roth from HMH Casting. Let's make some noise for her one time. Thank you, guys. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm quarantined out and cabin fever, but I'm an introvert anyway, so.
I liked it for a while, but I think last week I got the quarantine crazies. No, the corona crazies. I call them the corona crazies.
Definitely, yeah. And then, so like you have a, what do we call it? Because our audience, they're actors, they're musicians. A lot of them are young people in Hollywood just moving in. What do you call it? Casting company that you
run? Casting company.
Yeah,
and then most people will say, they immediately go, oh, what movies or TV shows did you cast? And I say, I have, but I like commercials and music videos. So I say, oh, I mainly cast commercials and music videos. But I don't really say I have a casting company or I'm a casting director. I own my own company.
Yeah, we're gonna get into all that too. Like, it's really interesting. I want to start from the beginning, not from like when you were born and stuff, but like it says like you start off as an intern for Beastie Boys.
Yeah, right? I did.
That's like my alley. That's like my kind of stuff. Yeah.
So this was back in the day, and I think like I somehow found their record label's phone number and called them, and I got the internship like basically over the phone. And so there was only like 4 people who worked there at their record label. It wasn't really an easy thing to get. And I met so many people through that. Also, at the same time, I happened to be friends with like DJs and professional skateboarders and stuff. But I also feel like at that time, people freaked out for the Beastie Boys. So it was just, you just end up meeting a ton of people, especially I was so young. I was really young. Like I didn't finish college. I think I went to like 1 year college or something.
That's what we promote on the show. Just don't finish college and get out of school. I'm just joking, but I do promote that a little bit.
In my mind, I was like, look, I got this internship. This is like an actual thing that's going to lead to something. I don't know what these classes are going to. They're not. I knew I wasn't going to go into the corporate world. I just knew I wasn't. I also I intended to become a comedian. And I think like there was just so much going on at that time, and you meet so many people, and there's so many different people around, and everybody, like everyone who's watching this is young. You end up meeting a ton of people that are all trying to come up, and you guys sort of all hook each other up, you help each other out. And as a result, I was around a lot of music videos. I was around people who did wardrobe styling. So I did like all these different jobs.
Was this in New York? Not to cut you off, but was it in New York or LA? You seem like a New York person. Both?
Oh yeah. I was born in New York, and I think within a couple years I was flying to New York to cast music videos and then flying back here. Or commercials, mostly music videos at the time. And I crashed a Levi's audition that had really, really cool people. And the photographer was from London, so he didn't know anyone here. And it just so happened that the guy I brought with me, or who brought me, was a DJ for a very popular like little club in Chinatown. And the photographer was like, oh, what should we do tonight? And we knew a lot of the same people. We knew, we knew where to tell him to go, that he'd be interested in going. We were super young and just into the same stuff. And I know the producer said, hey, how did you hear about us anyway? And I thought I was going to get in trouble. So I said, oh, I've cast things too. I know how it is. Like, I didn't even answer. That's not an answer. That's not even an answer. I can't believe she took that as an answer. But And we were the last people to show up at this audition, and the producer pulls me aside after we're doing all this. Oh, you should go here. Do you know this person? And with the photographer, and she goes, hey, you know, you mentioned you did casting before. You sound like you know a lot of people. Would you want to take over casting on this? We're not finding what we want. And I'm like, yes, I would like to do that.
Wow.
And I called all my friends, and none of these people were actors. They were like skaters, DJs, rappers. They worked in streetwear. And they were really, really impressed. Right around the same time, there was like a super duper crazy Beastie Boys fan. At that time, the Beastie Boys fans were insane. And he was like putting up his own money because he wanted to be a director. So he somehow met the the Black Eyed Peas at his college and offered to do their video for them out of his own pocket. And we had met because his best friend was like my roommate or whatever. He was this huge Beastie Boys fan. So I said, I just cast this Levi's thing. I can cast this video for you. And that's how I ended up starting to cast. It just was
incredible because
a hustle.
Yeah,
A hustle.
Definitely a hustle. And I've heard multiple stories like that from a lot of people in Hollywood. Like, for instance, like Steven Spielberg, like on Universal Studios, just acted like he was a director. And that whole fake it till you make it, it really works a lot of the time, but you have to really believe it, it seems like, right? And like,
not just believe it, but you have to, I want to say you have to be able to back it up, but the way you back it up is by being someone who can figure things out very quickly as you move along. Otherwise, you're just a liar.
Yeah.
And they don't like that. They don't really appreciate that, the lying.
That's probably like the biggest gamble, right? Because if you turn out to not be what you are, you ruin your whole career just off that one.
All of it, right? Because someone's relying on you to do this thing for them. And I guess I was just so young, and I'm just naturally I put people in touch with each other. And so it really sort of lended itself to work well with my personality. It just, to me, always felt like I was like, I don't know, having a party and I get to pick who's coming. And I, I'm also really good at being able to talk to someone and get an understanding of what they're into and then give them that. So those are all things I think that lend themselves well to casting. I never intentionally wanted to be a casting director. I tried to quit a bunch of times. I would turn jobs down. So I wanted to be a comedian. And then after some time, I realized that as much as I wanted to be a comedian, I really didn't, my personality just really didn't lend itself to being my own business. It didn't work for me. If I'm going to do a business, it had to be something that is external from myself. And when you're an actor, musician, dancer, singer, you are your own business.
Yeah. And
it's very hard to stay detached from that and be effective. I really commend anyone who's able to do it. I'm sure I could have worked it out, but I just started also realizing I'm so, like, casting's so easy for me naturally, whereas I did well performing, but it was always really stressful for me. Comedians can be really competitive. I certainly was very competitive myself, and I just didn't like sort of the feelings it was bringing up, whereas casting didn't bring any of those feelings up. It took a long time for me to really sort of rectify it myself. Like, you think you're quitting, you don't want to be a quitter.
You're preaching to the choir, right?
I don't want to be a quitter. I truly believe this, and I was debating saying this, so I'm glad this has come up organically. Like, I don't ever want to sound like I'm here comes the boots of doom on your dreams, but some of the greatest casting directors were actors. They wanted to be actors, and whether you become a therapist or whatever it is, if your acting career isn't working out and you get to a point where you're open to other things, there's a good amount of people that are going to find over time that they're glad they weren't an actor. You know what I mean? I would say that mostly applies to anyone who really emotionally struggles with all of it, because it's a very tough life. You know, you're constantly, especially the way it is now when there's not a ton of SAG national commercials, you have to book so many jobs to make a living as an actor. You still have to have other jobs. You know, you can't just book a couple of SAG nationals and be okay. It's so different now. So
I want to just say, because what you said is really poignant, and I want a lot of young Hollywood out there to realize this. And you pursuing comedy led you to become a casting director, and a successful one at that. You're casting commercials. By the way, let's plug that real quick, and we'll get more into detail for that. You have workshops coming up on June 15th to the 17th, and yeah, June 18th to the 21st. And just explain more about that real quick, and then we'll get more into it.
Sorry, I cut you off. I was so bad. Okay. They are commercial casting classes, sort of geared around what I'm saying, like how to look at your acting career as your own business, ways to incorporate that mentality into your career. It's not just getting an agent and going where they tell you to go. It's not just making sure your headshots are up to date. It's a mindset, right? And one of the benefits I always thought when I was casting and acting is I was able to just show up, do what I knew I did, and then leave and never think about it again, because I'd been in so many callbacks and bookings that I knew if I didn't get the job, it wasn't because I was an unlikable person.
Yeah.
It was because they wanted a grandma. My scene got cut. They needed someone to match with a certain other type they've decided to go. You know what I'm saying? There's so many factors that never, ever, ever have anything to do with you as a performer, to where I say, if you've gotten a veil, you did your job. Like that's you did it.
That's all you got to do, right? Yeah, that's everybody takes it so personally, and trust me, we will get back to that. Where can they find those classes? Because I want to go, we're all over the place on this podcast, but that's just how we do it. We got to keep their attention. So where can they find those? Yeah.
HMHcasting.com/classes. We're also on Instagram at HMH Casting, and we're posting about the classes on there as well. I think there's like a little highlight area that you can check out for June. It's normally $350, and we've discounted it to $150.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a tough few months for everybody. So.
And I bet everybody will appreciate that, because yeah, you can gain a lot from that. And people need to invest in themselves. Don't be afraid to spend that money to invest in yourself, to better your career and better your craft, you know, and there's a lot you can learn from these things. A lot of people are too afraid to even spend any money, and they complain why they're not getting anywhere in their career. But everything is how much you invest into yourself. You got to have confidence.
It is, exactly. And wherever you spend that money, it doesn't mean, like, you know, being an actor is tough. It's very costly, right? Even if it means you're just spending your money on good quality pictures, that's an investment. That's something, you know, you need to do that. If you don't have to do all the things, because, you know, if you're a struggling actor financially, you can't afford all the things, but you can do some of the things. You know what I mean? You don't, maybe you're stressing out about sending out postcards. Don't send the postcards out. Instead, save that money and, you know, get someone to edit a reel for you and put it on Casting Networks and Casting Frontier. I want to say I can't say I watch every reel that gets submitted to me, but I definitely look out when someone has a reel on their profile for a submission. I watch it right away, because it's a great way for me to get a sense of what you're doing outside of your photo. Like, who am I going to meet, you know?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And people do you have people who watch those for you, or if you can't watch every single one, do you have like people who watch those? It's just all you? That's admirable, and I commend you and I applaud you for that. That's really amazing.
I mean, you know, I'm not a huge office, and if I was, I probably would have to have people who watch that for me, but I'm not opposed to becoming a huge office, but I think my casting business is more boutique-y, and
I was going to mention that word, boutique, and we love boutiques, especially in this generation, but continue. I'll let you.
Yeah, like I really like to have my hands on things. It's only really been recent, like I still am at callbacks. A lot of casting directors aren't in the callbacks because they don't really need you in there. The clients don't really need you, but I'll still sit in there. It's only recently that I've been willing to like go outside for a while, you know, but I have tried to have people help me prep, and it just ends up, I have such a specific taste. I have such a very specific taste that I just can't. I've never had anyone prep a job for me, but I've had people help me, and then I revise and go through everything. And it's, you know, it's helpful, but I have a real specific taste. So it ends up, I have to go through everything.
Okay. And we're going to get back into the whole casting, commercial casting, music video casting, but I really want to go back to what you said before this. A lot of people don't understand when you move to Hollywood. I lived in Southern California my whole life, so it's not like I did move to Hollywood, but I'm from Cerritos. Yeah, but it's about the journey, and what you just said about your comedian journey. I think a lot of people can learn from this because it's the same struggle I'm dealing with, but actually you're absolutely right. Like sometimes especially with the mental health, like the universe will give you what you're prepared for. Some people, you may have all the talent in the world and you may want what you think you want, but your mental health, when people have no idea how much fame costs and all those things.
It really does. I mean, a lot, like there's so many different ways of acting, right? There's so many different methods. And one way that people can employ that isn't healthy is disassociating. And if you're actively disassociating from yourself in order to act and be this other person, that takes a big toll on your identity as yourself, right? So that's why I was saying it takes a certain kind of person who has this ability to market themselves as something that they aren't. Maybe like there was some supermodel, and I can't remember who it was, but huge supermodel who said, I am nothing at all like what these pictures are of me. Like I'm in sweats all the time, but when I go out of the house, I put the outfit on, I put the hair on, and I put the personality on. And it doesn't make you mentally weak to not want to do that or not be able to do that. It just means you might, maybe you're, you know, there's like 20% of the population are like extra more sensitive than the rest. They're called highly sensitive people, you know, and those people like will often really just sort of, I'm like that. So I'll pick up in a crowd. It's really stressful for me. I'll start feeling a bunch of other people's stuff. Right. And I find that people like that sometimes struggle with their acting career, even if they're like making it as an actor, right? They probably ended up with a manager who was willing to talk to them all day and calm them off the emotional you know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's worth it if you feel like that. If it's worth it to you, then it's definitely worth it, right? But I guess my thing about acting is try to find a way to create a career and a scenario for yourself where you're still having fun in your life, you've got your bills paid, and when you leave your auditions, you are done. You are not thinking about them for 1 second. Your job is in the room. Your job's also outside the room, as in like not to send weird emails to agents or casting directors, right? Not to put a weird, like now we're all looking at your social media. So like, you know, you got to kind of watch it unless you keep your account private, then you can do whatever you want. But
not to cut you, what do you feel about people posting their self-tapes or even their auditions on social media? What's your initial reaction to that? Is it positive? Because I'm new to the acting. I've done a lot of acting, but I come from the musician's background. And sometimes when I'm seeing the auditions and everything on people's social medias, like it's just a little weird. It's like, it seems like the wrong context to me for people to post those. But what is as a casting person, what is your initial reaction to that?
I think it's okay, so in practicality and in logistics, it's a smart thing to do. Someone might watch it, right? Do I think that that's like the best representation of you as an actor? No, if you actually have tape of yourself, we want to see that, right? I think it's hard to say. Maybe before coronavirus, I would have said something else. I think I have something to say. Okay. Posting it is one thing. Sending me a DM with no name, no hello, just a video of you self-taping shows up in my DMs. That's not running a proper business as far as I'm concerned. Hello, nice to meet you. Da, 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 da. Would appreciate you checking this out. Thanks so much. I always say, like, pretend you're going on a job interview at the bank. Would you just like walk up and drop some papers on a desk and keep it moving and expect to get hired?
No. Mm-hmm.
You know, we are cool, we are friendly, DMs are great, but we're still people, right? And it stands out. The self-tape stuff really stands out to me when it's stuff like that. Because now I know, I don't know, it just says a lot, that's all. And
what were you gonna say? You had something?
Well, I don't want to get in trouble for saying this, but I think it says a lot. I think it says,
like,
let's
necessary.
pretend. Okay, then I'll be honest. Okay, yeah. Let's pretend that person doesn't have an agent, and let's pretend I'm asked. This has happened in the past. Luckily I'm not having to do jobs like this, but occasionally you'll get a client that you work with a lot, and you just can't say no to them because of your relationship, right? And whatever, the rate's so low that you're not even asking agents to submit. Now you're doing it public, right? Which is not $100. Maybe the buyout's like $500. That's becoming much more common. This was more back when it wasn't as common to do non-union jobs. There was like a huge company that wanted me to cast a bunch of people directly, like off of like, you know, on LA Casting, where you can get auditions, like it's called public submissions, I think. So I ended up having to cast a lot of people directly. And I guess you'll write like, hi, I wanted to check your what's your availability for Friday the 19th and Saturday the 20th? The people who text you a video with no words are the people who write back, yes.
Wow, that's very telling. You already know.
And I've had that happen. Yes. Yeah. Yes, what?
It would be so frustrating. Mm-hmm.
That's right. And those people always flip out on you, by the way. They always flip out on you. Now, I don't book people like that. If I get a whiff of anybody who's like that, I try not to book them, because I think that they're going to give my clients a hard time. You know, that means they haven't dotted their I's and crossed their T's. They're not really looking into things. I had one job where this is super common. It'll be like, okay, you put a breakdown out to the agents, but the director and client want real groups of friends. It was like a 45 OCP SAG National. And they wanted real groups of friends. So it was 600 people between 3 rooms in one day. It was a zoo. And this guy, we told all the agents, if someone comes, they can bring their friends. They just have to sign in and stay there with you so we can book them through you. Agents aren't allowed to tell talent that they're not signed with, that you have to take this booking through me, right? It was just it's just a cool thing to do, so I don't have to book anyone direct. I can go through the agent and everyone's protected and all that, right? Well, I get a call from my producer who says, somebody's freaking out. Who is this woman? She's freaking out and telling us that we can't fuck her over legally. This girl was like taking a gun and shooting herself all over the face. Nobody was trying to fuck her over. It was a SAG contract for a national commercial. But she didn't have an agent, and she was so fear-based that when this other agency said, you have to book the job through us, she said, no, I don't. You can't. I know my legal rights. And this is a jump. But if you send me a text of a video and don't say anything else, I think it's safe to assume you might also behave like that on a set too. You're not looking into things. You're not thorough, and you're reactive, and it's a self-centered move. Like what? It's basically the actor's version of "You up?"
That's hilarious. Yo, it really is like you up. It's like you're trying to get a booty call and you're not putting in the work to get what you want. So that's really hilarious to me.
Yes, my honest opinion about the self-tapes also is it's pressure, because what if I don't think you're good? I can't tell you that now. I never would tell you that. Remember, it's my taste. It's my company. And I also don't want to be put in a position to tell you that for so many reasons. It's unethical. All it takes is one casting director saying something to somebody that they hear the wrong way and their confidence is shot. You know what I mean? So I don't mind the posting of it, but if the people who are expecting feedback, that's out of the scope of our jobs. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I do think everything's a little different with coronavirus right now. There's so many casting directors offering these free one-on-ones. This is another thing. To schedule a one-on-one with me. That was never offered anywhere in the universe. I never once anywhere in the universe said, I'm offering free one-on-ones with people. She was like, hi, I'd like to schedule a one-on-one. And I was like, it was so awkward to say, I'm sorry, we aren't offering those, but we're offering classes. Like, if someone wants to buy a class, that's great. But I don't want to have to tell you I'm not working for free right now for whatever reason. Maybe I have, millions of things going on in my life. But actors, I don't know. I guess I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but just because other people are doing free lives and they're doing free one-on-ones, it doesn't mean every other casting director is supposed to, or even, I don't really think that's a good idea.
Yeah. And that goes back to our subject where we're talking about, okay, some people aren't meant to be actors, because if you're acting like this with your mental health state in this situation by just trying to get the job, then imagine when you're getting movie roles, you're not going to last in this industry because your mental health is not prepared and you didn't do enough yoga, you didn't do enough therapy. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes that's more important. Yeah, like get your mind right.
It never is. It's never about you. And the other thing I like to tell people, and like I'm covering this in classes and stuff, is if you're in a callback and there's 5 people in there and 3 of them are on their computers, they aren't ignoring you because you're bad. They have no power and no say. That's why they're on their laptops. They're ordering light packages. They're getting people lunch. They aren't the people that make opinions about you. So you are free to let that go. I want everyone, you know what I mean? The purpose of my classes is for people to leave my class understanding when you go in an audition, you know exactly what's what, and you don't have those same worries you normally have. You know who's who. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the misconception about session directors. Session directors, I need them for my job. We need good session directors, but they don't have say over who gets booked. They don't have any say. So
can you explain to our audience really quick, because a lot of people are new to Hollywood. Just explain what a session director is, because it's very interesting.
Okay. A session director, at least in commercials, is somebody that you hire to be your camera guy. And he also, typically has a good ability to direct talent. And each casting director will have their own choices in who they work with for session directors based on each one's personality types. Like I have a few I really like. I know other casting directors that were in my facility have other favorites of theirs. We all have our quirks, and we all have our reasons for liking one over the other. And so we get the job, and then we hire the session director and we tell him or her, here's what the creative is, here's what they're looking for, here's what they want from these auditions, here's how I want you to direct them. Any special things like don't let anyone show their tattoos, or please don't let anyone mention the word banana, anything weird like that. I give them that info, and then they run the session for the whole day. So I know some casting directors have offices on site and they're sitting in their room, in their office watching live. Sometimes, I'm usually not there and I'm watching it on the computer as it's happening, or I'll watch the auditions right after they're done. And so when the casting directors aren't there at these commercial auditions, it's because we've hired the session director to run the sessions for us, and we're somewhere else watching the auditions.
I get what you're saying. And let me ask you this. It's going to be on a side note. Do you think your journey as pursuing comedy has affected your likability and your affability of being a casting director? Because we've interviewed a lot of casting directors, but you're very unique. I mean, everybody's unique, but you're unique in a sense that, like, you're funny. You have like a certain vibe to you. It's like quirky. Do you think it's enhanced your ability to be a better casting director?
I do, because I did it. I know exactly what you guys are all going through. I know exactly when the person walks in. Hi guys, how's your day going? Hi guys, I know what's happening with you. And let me recommend. There was a great question on the live I did. Someone said, how do we brighten the room? And I said, you don't. Like, that's not your job. That's not a responsibility that you need to put on your shoulders. That's getting in the way of you doing your job. If you are not a cloud of doom, then you're certainly not going to bring the room down. You know what I mean? But how do I, you know, when you're on your computer and you're like really trying to finish something and somebody wants to get your attention to tell you a joke? That's what it feels like when someone's trying to brighten the room.
Okay, so not to cut you off, because that's great. I want to ask, like, how does an actor, especially in a commercial audition, is it just what you're already expecting from what you see for the scene of the commercial, or is there like a quality that you're looking for, or a certain thing is there any way you can give the young actors like something they may need to do in the first 15 to 30 seconds of their audition that may make them more appealing? Is there something?
I would say, this is going to be such a strange answer, but find a way to be the most true, authentic version of yourself in a very short period of time. So do it, and also know when to wrap it up. Directors feel guilty all the time, like having to cut actors off, and sometimes callbacks will go on for long periods of time because the director will feel bad. But there's a real skill and gift to, so I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. A lot of times in callbacks, you know, if there's no script, let's say it's just like a vibe piece, what the director will say is like, okay, tell us a funny story about yourself. That means tell us a funny 30-second story. That doesn't mean tell us a funny four-minute story. And not all directors are like this. This particular director in the middle of this guy's story looked at me and said loudly, make him stop. And he was so cute and so charming, and he had us for 30 seconds. But then it turned into, when is the story end? Wait, where's this going? And now we're no longer doing our jobs. We're waiting for you to end a story without being rude, right? So there's an eloquence to being able to really succinctly be like, hi, how's it going? Oh, cool. Yeah, sure, no problem. Bye. Because you have places to go. You have people to see too. You know what I mean?
That could be taught, or that's inherent, like you have to have that in your DNA, or could it be like?
I think it's a learned behavior. I think it is, I don't think it can be taught. I think it's something you have to sort of discover within yourself, but I think it can be described and explained. Like, it's a level of detachment. So do not let anyone in that room be in charge of your self-esteem. And that's sort of like the grounding principle of that, right? Because like all the people that want to brighten their room and stuff, they're nervous. They want to be liked. They want to know we like them. And that's a natural feeling, right? Don't give anybody that kind of power over your emotional state. And I'm going to tell you why. Because just because you're not right for this job that I'm doing, I mean, it could be like models and, you know, a certain ethnicity that we had to match. And the next job could be a comedy job that you're right for, or a healthcare job. I do so many different kinds of jobs that I really do call in really different people based on each job.
And that's why I tell people, like, you guys should just value the accomplishment of getting an audition, because you don't know how many connections you make from getting that audition, you know? And because I'll tell you a quick story. Long time ago, I auditioned for Glee, which this is my first audition ever in my life. And I'm terrible. Like, I mean, I could sing, but I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't even an actor at this point. But because I did that, they put me in Argo. And this is when I was a young little baby, not baby, but like young little kid. And then they put me, because they're like, oh, you're Middle Eastern looking. The guy who was doing the Glee auditions also does casting for Argo. And I got a background role. It's not I didn't have a speaking role or anything like that, but I got a SAG eligibility just off failing at a Glee audition failing terribly. But because I looked a certain way, they put me in Argo, and I got my SAG eligibility off my first thing. So everybody needs to just appreciate everything that they get. Auditions are not easy to come by, you know?
No, and I'll say the rates, so there's so many more non-union jobs coming up, which is good for new people in Hollywood, because it's, you know, it used to be you couldn't do any jobs if you weren't SAG, and it was so hard to get a SAG job. And now it's like, oh, there's so many non-union jobs happening that you aren't really pressed to get a SAG card right away, right? Yeah. But the issue with that is some of these rates are really low. $500 buyout, $1,500 buyout. They're not these big, expensive jobs. And I think that it's a combination of putting yourself in, like, maybe noticing when you're in the right place at the right time. So I don't want to say, like, think about what you can get out of every opportunity, because that's not necessarily the way I want you to look at it. But yeah, like you could meet some random person at an audition that ends up saying, you know, I really think you might fit with my agency. And maybe, you know, you want to change agencies, and now you have that referral. Like, yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say. On these non-union jobs that are low rates, we're still getting like 3,000 submissions per role. So technically we're supposed to schedule 30 people per role on average-ish. I schedule 75.
Wow.
So I'm like, I like you. And then I also know non-union it's like the wild, wild west, right? So only half those people are going to show up. The thing is, moving forward, it's going to not be able to be like that anymore, because everything's going to be on Zoom and Skype. So if we don't really have,
I'm really sorry to stop you. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But you just mentioned something. You think even after the quarantine, it's going to just be on Zoom and Skype, even after the?
Depends on the casting director. So I know some casting directors that are really eager to do in-person casting, but I think that that's because they want to make sure their casting facility stays open, and rightfully so. Because if we're not doing in-person auditions, the casting facilities can't pay their rent and stay open.
Okay.
I personally prefer Zoom auditions or self-tapes, and then Zoom or Skype callbacks for at least the next few months, because it's safe. And because that way I can see more people than I could in person. In person, I might be able to see 45 people in one day, and I might be able to see 80 over Zoom.
Okay, so with this, I've asked other casting directors this too, especially for commercials. Don't you think that people get really nervous in person, and you may not even see their true talent, but if you cast them, then you can see their true. I don't like get nervous, but every actor friend I know gets really nervous in person, and I feel so terrible for them, because people aren't seeing, especially the casting directors are not seeing their true talent because of their anxiousness, you know, anxiety.
That's a great point. So there was a comedian that I really, really, really liked. It was a long time ago, and he just could not get past his own nerves. So whatever he did in his live shows where he was the boss was not showing up in auditions. And I eventually had to stop giving him auditions, because you feel bad for them, but that's part of your job. Part of your job is to work it out, that if this is the career you want, you have to notice that your nervousness is blocking you from booking jobs. You have to be the one to see that. And this story in particular is great because we had some mutual friends and they would reach out to me and say, could you please call this guy in, give him another chance? And I felt so bad, but I had to say, no, I cannot. I have done it enough times. And I cannot tell that man how to stop getting in his own way. Like, that's out of the scope of my job.
And do you think that factors into whether if they book the audition, then because their nerves are going to play a role?
You mean why they're nervous?
No, I'm saying like even if they're nervous already at the audition, and say they book it, so you guys factor that in. Like if they do book it, they're still going to be nervous.
People like that don't book jobs.
Got you. Okay.
Because their talent can't. The nervousness is what they lead. The nervousness leads the way.
Gotcha.
They meet nervous Nelly. They meet nervous Lisa. You know, I have a personality type or trait that comes out when I'm nervous. We all do, right? Mm-hmm. And again, that goes back to me deciding this wasn't for me. Is maybe over time I got tired of feeling like that, whatever it was. I'm not telling people to quit. Don't quit. I'm saying you have to work out that nervousness as part of your job. That's part of your job. That is, you know what I'm saying? How can we hire you to perform when you can't perform in front of us?
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's a great point, and I'm gonna get back to, because we all have mental health issues, but it's our responsibility to do the necessary work and get the necessary resources to conquer those, especially if we're trying to reach these kind of goals. If we're trying to be actors, you know, we're gonna be like, if you have mental health issues at this point when you're just living a regular life, you're not ready to be on a commercial. You're not ready to do a Mentos commercial or a Starbucks commercial, you know, like, because you're not, the universe won't give it to you because you're going to be super nervous even more when there's 30 cameras on.
That makes sense. So it's like the bank analogy again. You're so nervous on this bank interview and they're like, where did you go to college? And you go, what was the question? Because you're nervous. You aren't going to get the job because they need somebody that doesn't behave like that at their bank.
Yes.
It's not mean, it's just the way it is. And so whatever that is for you, that could mean you have to work out before every audition. That could mean you have to have a saying you say to yourself, which again, I go back to saying, for me, it's pretty easy to just use this sentence. Like, nobody can have that kind of power. You're giving other people so much power of you with that nervousness. Acting's weird and awkward and uncomfortable, but if you're not comfortable doing it, then what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Stuff together. You did commercials with like Lana Del Rey. You did the casting for these commercials. Kanye, Gaga.
For those music videos, yeah.
Yeah, for their music videos. Like, what was that experience like? Were you hands-on with that, or how did that work out? You know?
Okay, so when back in the day when I was really young, I was on set for the videos as well. Like, he would go and show up to set, sign everyone in, and now it's not like that. I don't know about other people, but so when you cast music videos, you don't interact with the artist, you don't meet the artist. It's really just doing what like the director and client ask of you.
So I'm sorry, please hold your thought. I just have to ask this before I forget. So does the artist tell the director to tell you, kind of a thing? Or does the artist have no role? Like, is it kind of like,
it really depends.
Particular, right?
Time, the artists of that stature, they have complete control. So like for the Lady Gaga video, I was told she was very happy with the kind of people I sent her, and she had been very nervous that she wasn't, you know, that she wasn't going to get what she was looking for. And let's see, there was, for the Kanye and Juicy J one, that was basketball players who could dunk, who were super tall. So that was a skill. And that was, I love casting athletes and dancers. I love casting that type of stuff. So that was just really fun to do. But I believe that probably was either Juicy J or Kanye working it out with the director, and they go back and forth. A lot of times on these videos, The label also has a ton of say, but the artists, those big artists have a lot of say.
Okay. Do you like doing music videos or commercials casting more? Is it more difficult dealing with the divas with music videos more than commercials? Or
Videos are tougher because of the pay sometimes, and because just the pay all around. You know, you might have a rougher schedule. You might not have as much time as you usually do on a commercial. But the bigger budget music videos can be really fun to work on too. And I like casting them because of getting to the finished product. I always love the finished product. As far as the process is concerned, I like commercials a lot because they tend to maybe run a little tighter. Like there's a lot of quick changes with music videos because it's like the artist might wake up at 4 a.m. and be like, you know what, I've decided I wanted a lemonade stand.
yeah, especially in hip hop, I already know. Like they might want
to
play their games or video games.
Oh my God. I
have
been in so many sketchy situations with those videos.
Yeah, artists and musicians are it's a thin line, but it's also a big difference between musicians and actors. But neither is positive nor negative. I feel like the actors are very desperate, but they're more organized and more on point. Musicians are the opposite. They're like less organized and less desperate. So it's like you should pick your poison kind of thing, you know? Like that's just the way I see it. I want to ask you this though, real quick. I want to ask you, hold on, because we had the conversation is going so fluid that I'm missing out on a lot of questions right now that I want to hit. Okay. Do you ever feel like actors, especially like, being a casting director, do you think they're trying to use you or trying to get what they want? They're let me suck up to her because I'm gonna get a commercial, or do you feel that? Like, do you feel that?
Yeah, but it's not, how do I say this? So here's the funny thing I think about that whole thing. Real sucking up is like, I bought you a car. Just kidding. No, but
that's good sucking up though. I would love that.
It's like, look at this thing I did for you, right? Like, and it never is like that. It's always like, could you look at me? Hey, you're so great. Can we talk about me? So the sucking up it just looks like people who cut their nose off, like they can't see. It doesn't look really well thought through. Like, I used to be around, like I said, professional skaters a lot, and you would get their man fans. And the man fans would like,
I've never heard that term in my life. I'm so surprised I've never heard that term.
Man fans would push you out of the way to get to their male hero. And it's just such a funny thing to do. Like, do you think that the person I'm with that you're a fan of didn't see you push me to talk to him? Like, and I don't mean aggressively push. I just mean like, get out of my way, let me talk. And so it's sort of the same thing. Like, the sucking up doesn't work. It's annoying. Because you're not really offering me anything, and I'm still a person, right? I'd rather you just be direct and say, I really want to keep auditioning for you. Hope to see you again. Like, that's not sucking up. That's asking for what you want quickly and shortly, right? The sucking up is weird. It's this weird, vague world where you're like, you want something, but you're not telling me what it is, and it really has nothing to do with me, and we both know it has to do with you. What is it you want, though?
Exactly. The conversation feels like it's a waste. It feels like, this is just a fake conversation. There's something you need, and you're not getting to that point. And I don't even want to have this conversation because it's very obvious. And
because it's not a conversation. It's not an actual conversation.
Yeah.
And again, it's your job to ask casting directors for more auditions. It's your job. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just a weird and not necessarily smart way to go about it. I'm not talking about leaving nice comments on social media and stuff like that. I'm talking more about the like real like, hey, love your hair's so pretty. Oh wow, like the real short. Oh, God, that sounded so bad. Please don't put that in there.
Okay, what? Don't worry.
I just mean like
you got final cut on this, by the way.
No, I just like that's so. I remember the first time that, not the first time, but maybe the first time I don't. It was right, like a few years after I opened my company, it was early on, and this girl was like, I love your shoes. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I text my friend something like, oh my God, this girl seems to compliment my shoes. And she was like, she's an actress, she wants a job. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right, you're so right. I've had guys say, when am I gonna see you again?
Jesus.
And like at the time I was online dating, and it happened to be somebody that I didn't know was an actor who didn't know my job, and maybe in the previous year we had messaged or whatever. And then he sends me this email, because I don't want to give away too much, but we had like animals in common or whatever. He sends me this email right after that said, it was so nice talking to you. Here's a picture of my dead dog. I miss him so much, XX. That's not a business email, right? That wasn't a business email.
No,
So my friend was like, you have to reach out and say, are you asking me on a date or do you want an audition? And I can't believe I did it, but I did. And he goes, oh, I feel so stupid. I just wanted auditions. Like, bro, just say, you said, when am I going to see you again? In a door frame. Like, we're leaning in the door frame. You know, it was just, he was really flirting with me. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. What I'm saying is, you're flirting with a woman. You're saying, when can I see you again? But you're on a job interview. And then you send a picture of your dead dog and say, nice talking to you. You made my day. Do you want a job or do you want to date me?
Yeah.
And I think if you take the dating part out of that equation and leave the story in, that's what sucking up looks like. What do you want?
It's bad.
No, there's nothing wrong with you telling me you want an audition. There's nothing wrong with you saying, love coming into your office today. Thanks for having me. But all the like,
yeah, that's just
stop. I'm tired.
Yeah, that's just too. It's wrong. Actually, it's not even. It's just wrong. It's false. Yeah.
Obviously, that person doesn't know how to get what they want.
Yeah.
The way you get what you want.
A lot of actors don't. I'm telling you. I
know.
I've been in the music world, the acting world, and I love the acting world. As I grow older, I want to go more into the acting world than the music world, because it's more as I mature, especially with hip hop and stuff. It's just like hip hop is a young man. I'm just saying, like I'm embracing the acting world, but I'm seeing a lot of the evils behind it, and I'm seeing a lot of the desperation. It's really a turnoff, and I'm seeing a lot of that's just my opinion, my own. I'm not outside looking in.
Yeah, and it's there. It's there, and it's all over the place. But then there's a ton of people. It's almost like the news right now. Like, there's a small portion of people who are just heinous. They're just terrible, right? And it's overshadowing the million normal people that aren't out there murdering people because they're police or whatever it is, right? Acting sort of the same. The crazy ones really stand out, and because they stress. I know people that book all the time, and their motto is, I show up on set, I'm happy to be there, I'm nice and pleasant to work with, and then I go home, and then I have a nervous breakdown, I do my drugs, I do whatever it is, but you do it at home, you know what I mean? And those people are booking jobs, and those people know that it's a job.
Yeah.
And so the way to navigate that is, don't invest so much of yourself in all of it, right? Know that there's normal people out there, and go find them. There's a ton of normal people just doing it.
That's great advice. And I didn't mean to, like, for lack of a better word, shit on the whole acting world. I'm sorry.
You aren't. I don't want you to put this in but I'm with you. I've gotten letters. I'm having a hard time in my life. I'm sorry, I freaked out at your audition. Like,
yeah.
I have seen these people crying. Can I have a hug? Like, but again, you know, if you really want to be around it and you really, really want to do this, then it is a path to take, is to decide, I'm going to not associate myself with people like that. Then I'm only going to let people into my life that are other actors that have this type of attitude that I'm looking for. And you can do that. You can find those people.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm not discouraged yet. We'll see. And then we'll wrap it up in a bit. I want to ask you, what's your plans going forward? The workshops, please let us know what dates are the workshops again.
What's it called? Classes.
Classes, got
I
you.
guess because there was something with casting director workshops and actors thinking they're going to get a job out of it, which is why I held off doing them so long. I didn't want anyone to really think, like, because it's not fair. But so now call them classes. What was your question?
I'm saying just let us know one more time, and then we're gonna put the link in the bottom. But just let people know one more time what days and how they can, what the website is to sign up for the classes.
HMHcasting.com/classes. The dates are, the first day of the first class session is June 15th. So there's 3 different 2-day sessions, and each 2-day session has a different special guest on day 2.
Okay, and do you give the special guests ahead of time, or it's like a surprise?
Oh no, I have them listed on my website.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
So
okay.
an agent, another casting director, and a director who are all going to be different guests.
Okay, and this is a question that it's not for right now, but we're gonna put it. Well, I want to ask you. I don't want to let this end without me asking you. Do you like? You're very entertaining. Like you have a natural aura, and that's not me. It's just saying that. I'm just saying that. Like, do you think you being a casting director, why not get on stage and do the comedy again, just and see where it goes?
I can ask that, and I will tell you because I did it, right, and I just don't really. I don't know why, but I don't have any interest in doing that again. I think having people laugh when they're talking to me is enough. Like, it fulfills me enough, and that as a comedian, that's never enough. You need more. I just don't think I'm actually like maybe at this point I'm a funny person, but I'm not.
Right.
Like, I'm not. I do not have interest in my personality being a part of my business. And oh no, that's wrong. I don't want my business to be my personality. Like, my personality can help my business, right? But I don't want my actual business to be my personality, which is what being a comedian is.
I totally get that. And people always ask me, like, oh, put up, because I do music. I'm like, what if you fall out of love with something? Is that so wrong just because you guys expect
Really
me?
not. And there's a very, 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 I'm glad you brought it up, because I can only imagine how many people think they failed themselves or something. It didn't work out for them. And that's not, if you really, 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 really look at your life, that's not always true. Sometimes it's true, but be nicer to yourself. Like, what if it is okay if it's not what you want? It really is okay, because you tried it and you did it. You know what I mean? And it's also okay if you're struggling and having a hard time and still really, really want this. That's okay too. But if you decide you want to take a break, if you decide you don't think it's for you, it doesn't mean you've given up, and it doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you learned something about yourself.
And whatever you learn about yourself, you're going to lead it to your next endeavor, like how you did with the casting company. And last question, we'll make it quick. I know you got to go. Now you got to go. This is super.
Oh, I was going to say this one thing. And maybe this will help for you too. One of the reasons that made me decide that I'm going to like stop comedy altogether and just do casting was when I looked at it on paper and I really thought about it. Casting came easy to me. Like, in my body, it felt very natural. There wasn't this big struggle. I didn't have to overthink everything. It was so easy for me. And this is not, I never in my life thought about being a casting director ever. I fell into it. I truly believe there's something in everyone's life that's kind of shown up a few times. Maybe you've ignored it, opportunities or whatever it is, that you ignored it because you decided that isn't what you wanted to be. Whether it's like opportunities to go to medical school and you just decided you're never going to be a doctor. Like, if you sit back and think, what is it professionally where I've earned money that I didn't really have to struggle to make it happen, and follow that. That's how I think that's how you sort of start helping yourself decide if this is for you or if it's not for you. Because at least I went through that, and I realized casting's never really that much of a struggle. It's like, it's a flow for me. I can handle these huge jobs, and I don't have an assistant. I mean, I do have one now, but most of the time I'm doing all this stuff myself. And I realized, like, why am I saying no to this? Because I didn't like the idea of it. And I had this idea that being a comedian was what I wanted. You know, I can't even get into the reasons why I wanted to be a comedian, but for other people out there, also ask yourself, why do you want this? And if it's because you have unmet emotional needs, which lots of people do from childhood, it's because you want a lot of people to like you. That's not a good enough reason. Like, you really have to love performing, and you have to love the hustle. You have to really not be affected by rejection. And you know, you can't just love performing. You have to love a lot of other aspects about it to decide that it's the right career for you.
100%. And I feel the same way about podcasting. It wasn't mine, but I'm naturally good at it. It works. I like doing it, and I'm not going to battle with it. I like doing it. And I like—
That's what I'm talking about. Everybody has an area in their life that doesn't really sound sexy, but showing up and is easy, and it wasn't in their plan, right?
Yeah.
And if you make money doing this thing that's easy for you, it doesn't mean you can't do all these other things. It means you cannot follow that, so you're financially stable.
Yeah.
So you still want to perform. And if you do, keep trying to perform, but you won't have that desperation, because you'll have this other thing that's easy for you, that's making your life work.
Exactly. And I want to tell all that my fellow actors, I have a lot of actors friends who are just narrow focused, super like not closed-minded. Well, yeah, they are closed-minded. They're like, oh, this is the only thing. But this is a Renaissance era. I'm telling you, we're in a new Renaissance era. I was actually going to name this podcast. But actually, like, I'm too selfish and self-promoting that I just named it my name, Rockwell. But I'm a brand kind of guy. But yeah, it's a Renaissance podcast. And what you just said was, yeah. I want to ask you one last question, because this is very important to us, because it's an entrepreneur thing. And I really want to commend you for this. And we've had a bunch of casting directors. I keep saying casting. I know people hate that.
People do it all the time. It's a casting director.
Yeah, I know. You're not agents because there's no money. I get it. I've been scolded about it a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm saying, like, the fact that you own it. Real quick, I know you got to go. You told me 20 minutes, like 30 minutes ago. I'm really sorry. But real quick.
Don't be sorry. I love talking to you. It's great.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I really want to know, what was your process to making you could easily work for a casting company, and you could easily but what made you want to own your own company and be a casting director? Because it's a beautiful thing. Ownership is a beautiful thing.
I cannot lie. From what I understand, I am not a good employee.
Me neither. Never have been. Mm-hmm.
I am better as a boss. Mm-hmm. And I did work for some other casting directors, and it was hard because I never started as an assistant. I started as a casting director. So to go down to assisting was really hard. The other thing was, casting directors don't really hire other casting directors to work for them, like work your way up for them to let you be what's called an associate. And I think because I had already cast so much myself, I didn't really see the reason to do that, right? It's hard to go backwards when you, like, if I were to assist somebody, it's not my place to say this, no, you should pick her. Like, it's not my place. My job is to print the schedule. It's not to tell you who should be, you know what I mean? So really I didn't have another option. Like, I just have the personality type that has to own, I have to be a business owner. I would have died working for somebody else. I would feel like somebody's like lighting me on fire on the inside and choking me.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Like, you took the initiative. I just admire it, because we all want to have our own business. It doesn't matter, because you can pass it on to your lineage. It can pass on to kids. It's when you own something, it's very powerful than working for somebody and taking orders and feeling diminutive and like people talking down to you and especially because you know, society, they think, oh, females can't own their own company, but you guys are doing it, and it's a new generation now. more female ownership. That's what we're promoting here. More minority ownership.
Yep.
Yeah, all those.
That's great. And I encourage everyone who's listening, if there's a way for you right now to start your own business, anyway, of any kind, do it. It's the best, most empowering feeling in the world. It'll teach you so much. It'll also teach you how to work for other people. I think everybody, I think everyone deserves to start their business and to see what that feels like, to not have a boss. It's a really nice feeling.
Yeah, and you're providing opportunities for everybody.
And that too. I really like being able to, I know what that's like to get a booking. So I love being able to be like, book the job.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. When this quarantine is over, please join us.
Let me ask you this. When this quarantine is over, please
in Los Angeles. Where you look, we don't need your exact address, but like where are you located around?
More like east. So like Highland Park, Pasadena, Eagle Rock area.
Yeah, we would love to do a part 2 because I got so many questions to ask you. I just know you got to go. Also, we can't do it 2 hours.
No.
ADHD. So thank you so much. Please join us again. And thank you for joining us. We have Lisa Roth from HMH.
For joining us. We have Lisa Roth.
Let's make some noise for that real quick. Thank you so much.
And follow us on Instagram at HMH Casting.